guys, it's your boy Silent Plague Wolf here. Welcome back to the channel where nightmares never sleep. Today, I'm going to be doing something a little different. I'm going to be reading my own original horror story, and it's called The Laughing Silence. I hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. Megan had always hated clowns. Ever since her 6th birthday party when a hired performer dropped the cake on her. She couldn't stand the sight of their painted smiles. But tonight, it wasn't a real clown that unsettled her. It was a doll. The doll. The porcelain clown doll had been gifted from her grandmother, passed down from generation to generation, with each woman in the family receiving it when they turned 18. Megan had no intention on keeping the doll, but out of respect, she placed it on a high shelf in her room, its painted face looking downward. It seemed harmless at first, just an old dusty relic with its red lips frozen in a sneer, and its lifeless glass eyes reflecting the moonlight. But tonight, something felt wrong. The house was too quiet. Megan sat on her bed reading through her phone, feeling the familiar creep of her spine. The soft hum of the wind outside was the only sound. The clock on the wall ticked slowly, each second dragging on like an eternity. As her fingers swiped through social media, a sudden clang echoed from downstairs. Her heart stopped. Probably just the wind, she whispered to herself, but her voice shook. As she carefully listened, waiting for another sound, nothing. Slowly, she placed her phone down and got up. Walking towards her bedroom door, she tiptoed down the hallway, peeking into her parents' empty bedroom. They wouldn't be home until tomorrow. Her brother was staying at a friend's house. She was home. She was alone, utterly alone. But something wasn't right. She padded down the stairs, holding her breath, every creak of the wood underfoot making her wince. When she reached the bottom, she saw the kitchen light flickering. The light hadn't been on before. The kitchen was cold, much colder than the rest of the house. She checked the windows, locked the doors. The back door locked. As she turned to head back upstairs, the light went out completely, plunging her into darkness. Then she heard it. A giggle. A soft and distant, like a child's laughter, but not quite right. It echoed throughout the dark kitchen, making her stomach twist in fear. She bolted upstairs, slamming her bedroom door behind her. Her breath was ragged. Her heart pounded in her chest like a drum. She leaned against the door, trying to steady herself. Maybe it was her imagination. Maybe it was just the old and creaky house. But then her eyes drifted to the shelf. The doll. It wasn't where she had left it. The clown doll had moved. It now sat on the edge of the shelf, legs dangling over the edge, its head tilted slightly to the side as if it were looking directly at her. Its painted smile seemed wider, more twisted. The moonlight through the window cast an eerie glow on its porcelain face, making the shadows around its eyes seem darker, deeper. Megan's throat tightened as she stared at the doll, refusing to look away, too afraid to blink. She didn't remember placing it like that, and she certainly hadn't turned its head. The air in the room felt heavy, oppressive. Then the giggling returned. This time it was much closer. Much, much closer. She could feel it, hear it, almost taste it. It was coming from the doll. Suddenly, the doll's head snapped to the other side as if it were jerked by an invisible hand. Its mouth seemed to open slightly, just enough for a faint whisper to slip out. Megan. Her blood ran cold. The whisper was soft, but it was there. It had spoken her name. She backed away, her knees weak, her heart beating so hard it felt like it might burst from her chest. The room began to spin, her vision narrowing as terror gripped her. Then the doll fell. It toppled off the shelf and landed on the floor with a loud thud. But it didn't stay there. Slowly, painfully, it began to move. Its tiny limbs twisted and jerked in unnaturally as, as it pushed itself up to a sitting position. Megan wanted to scream, but no sound came out. She was frozen, rooted to the spot as she watched the doll's painted lips curl into a sinister grin. The giggling grew louder. The room seemed to pulsate with it. The walls closing in around her. The doll's eyes, once cold and glassy, now seemed alive, glinting with malevolence. Its tiny hands twitched, and then, in one swift motion, it pointed at her. Megan, come play. She couldn't take it anymore. She lunged for the door, but it wouldn't budge. The knob wouldn't turn. Panic surged through her as she yanked on the handle, desperate to escape. Behind her, the sounds of tiny footsteps began to shuffle closer. As she spun around, pressed her back against the door, her eyes wide in horror, as the doll was now standing no more than 2 feet. But it loomed over her in the darkness, its painted face almost glowing in the dim light. Play with me, Megan, it whispered, its voice like nails on a chalkboard. Megan finally broke free, but it was cut short as the doll lunged at her, its tiny hands gripping her ankles. With unnatural strength, she kicked, trying to shake it off, but its grip tightened, pulling her down to the floor. The floor spun wildly. The room spun wildly as she struggled, her vision blurring with terror. The doll's face inches from hers now, its cold, glassy eyes boring into her soul, its mouth wide open, revealing sharp, jagged teeth where there should have been none. Megan, it hissed, its voice slithering through the air like a serpent. You're mine now. The last thing Megan saw before darkness claimed her was the doll's twisted, laughing face, its teeth sinking into her skin. The next day, Megan's parents returned home to find her in her room. Returned home to find her room in perfect order, except for one thing. The clown doll sat on her bed, its painted smile wider than ever, and its eyes glinting with sickening glee. Megan was gone, and somewhere, deep in the silence of the house, a soft giggle echoed. Hope you enjoy. Remember to enjoy your daily dose of nightmares. Peace.